Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Stephanie and this is the week 10, March the 3rd through the 9th weekly wrap up. As I said, this is the week 10 weekly wrap up for March the 3rd through the 9th. I have a couple things to get through before I get into the books that I read last week. First of all, you guys should have already seen, if you've been watching my channel for a little while, that I have a giveaway going on. Make sure that you check the Romancing Rappahannock book haul, because I went to a signing and one of the authors gave me some extra books to give away on the channel. So please check that out. There is a giveaway form for entry down in that description box, so you can check that out. I'll also link that above in the cards so you can check it out as well. It was a busy week this week. Nothing really big happened other than I got a whole bunch of reading done. I read 8 books, so I'm real excited about that. I got a whole bunch of arcs in, and I'm going to be pushing myself for next week and for the rest of the month, because I do have another signing coming up here, which is a Polycon. Super excited about that. So I have some books that I need to read for that, as well as my romance genre-a-thon, which is going on, and that theme is Irish and Scottish, so lots and lots of fun, because I'm trying to reread the Outlander series, or reread Outlander and then read the rest of the series for that challenge, which is a big challenge because those books are super hefty. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think that's it. Make sure you check this description box as well. Know that you can always timestamp if there's a certain book that you want to, that I read last week because you were following me on Instagram. That's a great place to find out information. Hint about the giveaway. One of the answers is over on Instagram. So make sure you're following me there. Also, all my links and stuff like that are down there. But as I was saying, you can timestamp and time jump to whatever books that you want to hear about, or if there's a book that you read in the description box that you want to hear about, you can always time jump to that particular review. So let's get into the books that I read last week. I started off the week by reading A Player for a Princess, Dirty Player number 2 by Tia Louise, and I give this book 4 stars. I give it 4 Steam fans. I place it in contemporary. I listened to it on audiobook, and I really enjoyed this story. This is the second part to the Dirty Player duet, and there is a third and a fourth book, but I haven't gotten to those yet. But those are standalones, and I really enjoy this one because this one continues the journey with Zelda and McCullen, who had this like huge cliffhanger at the end of the last book. So I can't really tell you about this book, but it continues on their journey, and I felt really satisfied with this one. It gave a lot more suspense and mystery and things like that. So I really enjoyed it. And yes, I will be reading more Tia Louise books. The next book that I read was Needing Him, which is Bishop Brothers number 2 by Kennedy Fox. I place this in contemporary. I give this book 5 stars. I give it 4.5 Steam fans, so you'll see actually 5 Steam fans here. I listened to it on audiobook, and I read this for Romanceopoly Heartbreak Hotel Corner. I think it's like a corner space or what have you, but it's a read that's about a hospital or a doctor or doctor heroine. This book follows Evan, who, if you know anything about the Bishop boys or the Bishop family, you know that they are ranchers, but Evan is the brother that decided not to do ranching, and he is a doctor. He's an ER doctor, and he has a one-night stand at his sister or brother's wedding, I believe it was. Come to find out, that one night stand happens to be someone he has to work with. Well, Emily is an ER intern. She has a long legacy of doctors in her family as well. So the two of them have this real, like, straight up love-hate relationship going on. It's super crazy. It's super funny. I really enjoyed it. I could almost place this in rom-com, but it does have lots of contemporary moments to it. to be just more contemporary than it would be a rom-com, because there is some suspense that goes along with this story as well. But I really, really love this. It did end on another cliffhanger that is hinted for book number 3 for the Bishop brothers, and I'm really looking forward to that one. I want the last 2 books to come out on audiobook so I can listen to them, because it is much easier for me to listen to an audiobook than it is for me to actually sit down and read, because I can listen to an audiobook while I'm working or typing or, you know, at swim practice, things like that. People seem to not bother me as much if I have my earbuds in. But that's neither here nor there. Getting off track. The next book that I read was Obsidian, which is Luxe number 1 by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is a YA sci-fi book. Whew. I give it 3 stars. I give it 1 Steam fan. I listened to it on audiobook. I read it for Romanceopoly Alien Avenue. And this book follows Kate and Demon, however you want to say his name. Oh, this book right here. Yeah, I had to remind myself plenty of times throughout the reading of this, listening to this book, that it's a YA. I had to remember, it's a YA. It's a YA. But by the end of it, I felt it was more fan fiction than anything. I was like, oh my God, why? I couldn't. I can't. And I don't think I'll be finishing this series, but I did knock that board piece off of my board. So the next book that I read was Mr. President, White House number 1 by Katy Evans. I placed this in contemporary. I give it 4.25 stars. I give it 4 Steam fans. I listened to it on audiobook, and I read this for Romanceopoly for the library space. This book follows Charlotte and Matthew. Charlotte was 11 years old when she met Matthew, and he was about, what was it? They had quite a few years in between them. Matthew is the son of a president who ends up getting killed, and then Matthew ends up becoming famous for that situation and ends up running, well, while Charlotte was young and infatuated with Matthew after their first meeting. Oh, she promised to work on his campaign with him, and this book gave me all the feels of Scandal, things that I have been missing. And the only difference is that this story was pretty healthy. I love me some Scandal, don't get me wrong. And I love Liv and Fitz together. I absolutely adore them together. For you Scandal fans, you know what I'm talking about. This book was healthier. Both of the individuals were single. However, there is an age gap. So that's the only thing that I guess you could say was possibly taboo. That age gap is about 13 years or something like that. So it's a little borderline. Both of them, when they finally do hook up, are of age. So no worries there. But the infatuation was definitely there beforehand. And just so many Scandal feels. So many Scandal feels, and I was there for it, which means I'll be picking up the next book as soon as I can possibly get to it. The next book that I read was Rated X by Ella Fox. This was an erotic short story. I give this book 3 stars. I only give it 2 Steam fans, and I read it on my podcast of Read Me Romance. Read Me Romance. Yes. So, although I love the podcast and I love that they introduced me to new authors, because come to find out, I have not read an Ella Fox book at all. I was very surprised. I own a whole bunch of them, but I haven't actually read one. And I was just a little disappointed with the story. I thought it was too short, and it didn't give me all the feels. The sexy part to it just wasn't sexy for me. And it just wasn't my favorite. Sorry. The next book that I read was Tumble, Dogwood Lane number 1 by Ariana Locke. I place this in a new adult, and I give it 4 stars. I give it 2 Steam fans. I read this as an arc, as you guys know, because I have been talking about it for the last 2 weeks. I think I may have been in a bit of a slump for actually reading ebooks for a little while, but then I got back into it and I finished this one. This book follows Neely, who was a small town gymnast that decided to pursue her dreams as a gymnast and go to college. Well, her boyfriend at the time, Dane, um, decided to sort of push her away and say, hey, you need to go to college and we're going to take a break and all this other stuff, making decisions for her. And then Dane ends up having a kid. Yeah. Well, when Neely comes back into town after she quits her job because of some unfortunate things that happen at the job where she doesn't get the promotion, she starts to interact with this little girl that is coming out of the place where she does gymnastics at the gym, and finds her cute and everything like that. Neely is pretty famous in their small town and stuff like that. So this is their story of sort of that second chance. There were some things that I didn't necessarily like about the story, like the time frame. It happened like over a 2-week time period, and then their sort of break, their trauma that happened on why they had broke up, I wasn't feeling that reason. I was not there for it. But overall, it was a cute book. I did enjoy it. I think it took too long for us to find out how old Mia actually was, who was the little girl in the book. I was like, how old is this little girl? How long has Neely been gone from the town? What? How? And they didn't really redeem themselves. Neither one of them really redeemed themselves. It was like, oh, I'm sorry, I pushed you away. Oh, I'm sorry, I pushed you away. And we're just gonna let that shit go. That was just it. The next book that I read was A Diary of a Bad Boy by Meghan Quinn. Place this in contemporary. I give it 4 stars. I give it 4 Steam fans. I read this one as an arc as well. I did read this for, surprisingly, romance genre-thon, because our main character, who is Roke, can't seem to get his name right in my head. He's Irish, and he has some family issues and has some self-esteem issues, and I loved this because he was known to be this like fighting guy and a drinker, and he's Irish, and you loved him from the beginning, even though he drank and he fought and he'd get mad over these weird things. He is placed into an anger management counseling session where he has to been told by his therapist that he needs to write in a journal. So in this book, you get journal entries from him, and he calls it his diary, but he gives it all sorts of different names, and it's sort of his introduction to what you're going to be seeing in that chapter or that scene or what have you. And I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And you just love him. And then the female character in this book is Sutton. She is this sort of quiet woman that her best friend Maggie ends up pulling her out of her shell. So in their encounter, in their first meeting, they meet because Roke ends up getting into a fight over some ketchup on a hot dog, and their phones get switched. So Roke has Sutton's phone and Sutton has Roke's phone. He comes off as this pig because he's all about not having a connection with women, and his phone's blowing up, getting naked pictures and things like that. Come to find out they have more of a connection than they thought they did. And I loved how it just sort of evolved, and they teased each other. They challenged each other, and I just really enjoyed the story. The next book that I read was Damaged Like Us #1 by Krista and Becca Richie. I place this in LGBT category of books. I give it 3.5 stars. I give it 4 Steam fans. I listened to this on audiobook and I read it for the Romance-opoly LGBT Lane space. This book follows Maximoff and Pharaoh. Maximoff is this celebrity and Pharaoh is his bodyguard, and they have had an attraction to each other unrequited for a long time. This is another semi-age gap because it's 5 years, but I don't particularly think 5 years is an age gap for me, or is like a taboo, forbidden sort of age gap at all. Now, I will say in the beginning of this story, and the reason I gave it 3.5 stars is because so much of this story is building off of where this series was spun off of, which is the Calloway sisters and Addicted series, I believe. So you met their parents in those 2 series, and this one is about the kids and their bodyguards, and they just kept throwing in so many different names and so many different characters. My head was spinning. I had really wanted to enjoy this book a little bit more because I thought, it's a male-male romance, and, Maximoff sounds like he's going to be this really cool sort of celebrity that has philanthropy, or is philanthropic. There we go. And Pharaoh is this super tattooed, pierced bodyguard that's just super hot and things like that. But it wasn't mainly about them. It was mainly about how Maximoff likes to take care of his family, likes to take care of his sisters and brothers, and how many stinking bodyguard teams are there? God! There's Alpha, there's Epsilon, there's Omega, there's... Sweet baby Jesus. There were so many characters thrown in this book. And then when you finally did get to their romance, and their sexy time was freaking sexy, I will say that, but their storyline was like, oh my goodness. Well, come to find out, there are 2 other books between Maximoff and Pharaoh, so I may have to continue on with the story to see if some more depth comes, and hopefully all the other characters don't overrun their story. So those are the books that I read last week. Now on to the books that I am currently reading. I'm currently reading Wrath, which is book number 3 in the Elite 7 series of standalone books. I actually don't suggest that you read them as standalones. I suggest that you start from the beginning of this Elite 7 series. This one is by Claire C. Riley. All 7 of the books are written by seven different authors, and this book follows Wrath, the Sin of Wrath, and I am about 50% into it, and I am loving it because when we first met Wrath, I believe it was in Lust, he came off as this, like, strange and, like, intimidating character, and now I'm finding out why Samuel Wrath is the way that he is. I'm loving it. He's taking care of his family. His mother died during childbirth. He has a twin, and I'm just like, I'm here for it. The female character in that, we haven't really unfolded who she is or why there's a connection there, except for her name is Patience. She is the mayor's daughter, and they had a connection when they were 11 years old, and then again when they were 13. So yeah, enjoying that. Wrath, or Samuel, likes to control things in all manners, and he can fight like nobody's business. Loving it. Loving that aspect. I am also reading, or will be reading, The Reality of Right and Wrong by Leddy Harper. I received this as an ARC, and I will be getting through this week. Haven't started it yet. I will also be starting The Royal Temptation by Riley Pine, and this is to be one of the books I may feature in my Read Bliss project that I'm working on this month. So that is the list of books that I read last week and what I am currently reading. You know that you can always follow what I'm reading and things like that over on Goodreads, or you can follow what I'm doing on Instagram. I'm learning about Instagram, loving that. I will probably be doing a little more on my Instagram stories, so please make sure you check that out. All the information is in the description box, so you can follow me and, you know, interact with me on different social platforms, whichever one that you're on. If you're not necessarily here on YouTube and commenting and things like that, you can always catch me at those. Have you read any of the books that I just read for last week? Let me know down in the comments. Let's discuss them. Let me know if you thought any of them were good and you might pick them up. I always enjoy that. And I think that's it. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Also, there is a feedback form down in the description box so you guys can help me improve my channel. Thank you for watching, and we will see you guys later.